And we're back. I hope, well, George unmutes himself. I want to say welcome back, everyone. I hope you get a chance to stretch your legs, get a sip of coffee or some water, and you are ready for our part two.
Yes, it's not never gonna end. I'm gonna always forget to unmute myself, no matter how long I am in this business. Anyways, thanks for sticking around, everyone. We are at our second panel discussion today. We're going to be talking about cold emailing, and again, there was quite a few people that started asking about practical implementation when it comes to specifically email and how to incorporate AI efficiently and effectively and reliably in their email outreach. So the topic for today is how to level up cold emailing with AI, best practices, tools, and potential pitfalls. Our speakers today are Mark Hunter. Mark is a sales speaker and sales trainer / consultant at the Sales Hunter. Richard Harris, founder at the Harris Consulting Group, three-time Salesforce sales leader to follow, and Rush Shahani, a co-founder at Persona AI, hyper-personalized AI technology enabling businesses to easily identify qualified leads, surface customer insights, and send personalized outreach. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join the conversation.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's kick off with some general stuff. I know at least we here at Reply, we can probably for this first topic, we could probably spend a whole hour talking about how AI can contribute in cold outreach specifically, because that's what we do. But to stay impartial, I'm gonna just address this question to everyone to hear everyone's perspective. So the question is, how can AI contribute to cold email outreach, and why should sales leaders care about implementing AI in their workflows and processes?
All right, I'm going to jump in first. Okay, everybody, a split second. First of all, if you're a sales leader and you aren't paying attention to AI, or you're not trying to incorporate it, you're not a sales leader. Leaders are visionaries, right? We either adapt or we die. And I appreciate and have all the concerns about AI that everybody else does. Like, I totally get it. But it's here, and you need to embrace it and figure out what it can do, because it can help you. I have it doing all kinds of stuff for me these days. I had to help. I'm on the board of my son's private school. I had Bard last night tell me what I needed to put into a grant application for a specific type of grant. Well, guess what? I probably would have researched that anyway. Like, why not have them do that for me? So that's just, that's the kind of stuff. You can figure out ICP personas. You can figure out all kinds of stuff. So I'll stop there. So, and let someone else answer that and the other part of the question. But if you're not embracing it, then I think you're just not going to be a strong sales leader going forward.
Yeah, Richard. Rush, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think it's super important to take charge, and AI is going to come whether you want it or not. I think it's about being at the forefront of it and taking advantage of that, and just helping you with all kinds of research as well. When you're trying to draft a cold email, you want to research the ICP, like you mentioned, also research the leads company, but really help you find out where the blend is between where you can help the lead and also where the lead can also benefit from you. So helping you scale that research, whether that's looking at SEC filings, looking at the leads company information, maybe they launch something new. What AI has been able to do is do that at scale, because a human cannot actually go through that much information, but showing you the information that's important at the right time.
Yeah, Richard and Rush, I love your comments, because what AI does is it allows us to move so much faster in terms of finding out, and it's about getting specific. AI is not a mass tool. I look at AI as a specific tool. It allows us to get very tight information. And that's what's cool. The example you used, Richard, hey, you figured out how to fill out a grant that much faster. Rush, you were talking about SEC filings. Sure, it's all there already, but now we can move much faster. So what does this allow us to do? It allows us to make our cold emails that much more targeted. That's the value of AI. The train's left the station. We better be on it.
Completely agree. Completely agree. What's the next? I just got off like hosting one, so I'm like, where's the next question? Go for it.
Yeah, that's our job. So you can just sit back and relax. Well, actually, you guys, you kind of already pivoted into the next question, and we tried to structure them in the order of the workflow of a typical sales process, which is, first research, then craft the messaging and craft the whole sequence, and use different channels and personalize them. So in that workflow, and by the way, feel free to jump in, maybe insert some of the steps that we didn't think of at this level. But yeah, so the next question was about proper research and targeting. We did cover this a little bit in our previous with our previous speakers, but can you recommend any workflows or tools or processes to help sales leaders and sales professionals in general to streamline their work in the research phase, even prior to reaching out to that lead?
Ask that question again.
Let's put it this way: AI-assisted prospect research and targeting. What is that, or is there something on the market that can help with research and put it on autopilot?
I'll jump in here. There's a lot of tools out there, and every day there's new tools being added. Here's what I tell people: keep it simple. You can get so caught up chasing shiny objects all over the place that you never actually get to the source. If we go back to the source of really AI, and we'll say the tool that kind of came on the scene in November and December, Chat GPT. That right there is a very quality tool that you can use. Now, you can bolt on all kinds of things to that, or you don't even have to use that. But what I tell people, keep it simple. Don't try to boil the ocean with what you're trying to do, because otherwise you'll never get it done.
Yeah, I would also say the mood right now in the marketplace is consolidation of tools in the stack, and so and I'm seeing it out there, and I'm being conscious not to mention vendor names, just out of I don't need to play favorites, and some of them I'm advisors, so I don't want to do that. But there are tools that will write the entire sequence and cadence for you, what the message should be. They will bring in personality insights, whether it's a disc profile. There's now recording software that will actually not just record it, summarize it, and transcribe it. It will also give you some level of AI intent, like what was Mark Hunter's intent to purchase from Richard, which is always really high. He's one of my best customers. But these are the jokes, people. They're not getting better, I promise. So there's a lot of stuff out there. The challenge, and it's almost like it's just like when all the original sales engagement platforms first came out. I think we can mention Sales Loft and Outreach. We all know about them, right? So that was like, oh my God, look how better we are. And then we started to get some of the other video tools and some of the, the recording software. Now all of a sudden we've got all these things in so many places, and now we're stepping up from that with the AI side. And I think we have to be careful, as Mark said, it's a pretty butterfly, but don't let it overdo it. Now, what I think will happen, and someone can correct me, is that, Mark and I are old enough to know a couple of things. One, emails didn't count because they couldn't count them in a system. We only got counted on cold calls in the 90s. Like Mark, Mark's old enough to know that. Like email.
Well, excuse me, Richard, you're old enough to know it too. So it's okay.
I said me. I thought I said
right. That's right. Hey, I still love you, man. I still love you.
So these evolutions occur every several years, and now it's just accelerating. And I think we need to be mindful of that and be aware. And then at one point, the reps still had to go find the email address. Well, then we got smart and had an ops person who would go and get the clean data. right? Now, I think what will happen is this AI stuff, right now, it feels very one-to-one. But what I think will happen is that either the tool itself or the sales operations function will be, here are the targeted accounts, go get the 20 people at each account we need to hit, go craft the message for all 20, and then either the system will run it for you or the rep is going to run it, because now they have all the data and you just want a manual part of it. But that does affect, headcount to a certain extent. So I think we're going to see this, how we gather the data and get it to the rep to be used will be sort of another phase of this after we get over this hump of like, oh my God, look at all the data.
Yeah, great point there. I think it's super important for the AI tools to, fit in their workflow. It shouldn't feel like you have to juggle 20 plus tools out there, whether it's going into researching, using chat GPT, or even sending the email via outreach. I think what we'll see is these AI tools that serve as a co-pilot to really help you scale across all your outbound campaigns. So whether it's doing the research for you, getting that list of leads, also helping you craft the message by doing research on like different characteristics about ICP. But it's really important for it to, fit into your workflow so that you don't have to go into a different tool for each of the steps. And AI will help you automate that. I think we're starting to see more tools in the space where it does the whole process for you, where it's just not a one part tool, but it's a whole it's a whole task that it does.
Yeah, and I think generally this is kind of the sign of the times. It's just very early, and therefore there are a lot of point solutions. But as it usually happens, then they consolidate into or being acquired by bigger tools, and then kind of streamlined fashion in a single, let's say, sales engagement system. If we're talking about sales engagement, my next question was about. Let's just dive into the emailing part of it. If you can maybe list some of the best practices when approaching using AI in personalizing cold emails, not specifically like use this prompt or that prompt, like what to keep in mind when personalizing outreach with AI. What are your thoughts?
We're waiting for AI to respond. I just put the question out to AI, and so I'm waiting for it to respond. Here's the situation. You have to let your personality come through. This is still, because again, just because I can send out 10,000 AI generated emails doesn't mean I should. I can go play in a freeway. Doesn't mean I should. It's usually not good for your health. So here's what I advocate. I'm going to take AI and I'm going to use it, but I'm going to personalize it in my own language. And what does that mean? That means allowing me to get my personality to come through. Because my objective with a cold email is to generate a conversation, is to generate a phone call, is to generate a Zoom call, Teams call, whatever it might be. And I'm using the email to begin allowing that person to see that, hey, this guy's okay. This guy's not the crazy uncle or the weird aunt, in the family. So you have to still put yourself into it.
So I'm going to disagree a little bit.
Okay, I love this. Now we're having fun. Thank you.
Now we're having fun, right? So I like the concept of what you're saying, right? I think that the challenge for messaging, and the thing I like about this, and this could be a Richard thing, by the way. This could be like, well, Richard, you're just crazy. Is that email needs to be written for the recipient, not for how I feel about me. And I think the AI piece can come in and bring it that, oh, this person's a high I personality. Here's the message to send. Now, I can agree that maybe there's something I can go in and do, like Mark says, that makes it a little bit punchy for me. I would A/B test that, though, I think. I'd want to know if, which again isn't always easy tell your SDRs to A/B test things is kind of like one of the silliest things ever, because what are you going to A/B test 20 messages? Come on. But so anyway, so for me, that's the thing I think I've been learning about it in the prospecting side is that, well, I want to see if it actually writes to get them to respond. And it's not the, well, would you answer that email? Well, no, I'm not selling to me. Now, if I'm selling to salespeople, I think Mark and I often sell to salespeople, so our personality aligns, and that's easier. If I'm selling to an IT person, I don't know that my personality needs to come through. Like, I don't think they care. So anyway, so I kind of disagree. I can see where it goes, but I kind of disagree, and maybe I'm wrong. So someone disagree with me too.
No, I'm glad you call that out, because I'm not saying to talk about me, but what I'm saying is sometimes I will put something in and it comes out and the words are they're just a little bit too complicated. So I simplify it. I make it simpler to understand, simpler. That's really what I'm talking about. One of the pieces that I love doing is you use AI, but it's always a historical piece. It's always using past data. Back a couple of weeks ago, we had this thing called March Madness, both men and women's NCAA basketball tournament. And I was able to, because again, knowing personas, knowing people, knowing what team they're backing, what team they're supporting, maybe something they said already out on Twitter or Instagram, whatever it might be, I was able to drop some of those pieces in there in terms of their team. And I was amazed at the response. I did that both in email and I did that by way of text messaging. And it was amazing at how it increased the level of response. See, so that was letting my personality come through, because I was into March Madness myself. And I was finding where are those common connections, and I was trying to build on it. And it generated some excellent responses.
Just out of curiosity, Mark, were those cold outreaches, or did you know those people?
They were maybe ones that I had maybe just a little bit of an inkling of a conversation with. You know, they were several people who I had met at a conference. There was one person in particular, for instance, I had met at a conference 4 or 5 years ago, had never talked with that individual since. But I remember when he was at that conference, he was wearing a Houston shirt. Well, University of Houston happened to be in March Madness. So guess what? I played on it. And you know what? He responded. I was shocked. So yeah, it wasn't true 100% cold. So these were that I had just a little bit of an inclination of.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's about how you tell AI to make it sound like you, bring those layers of hyper personalization, but don't just use it in a way to just do it at scale while sounding robotic. I think bringing that layers of human touch is very important. I think one thing that I found helpful is you just tell the AI, this is what my ICP is interested in. These are some of their interests. Craft me an email that would sound like me, based on my information. It's like, for me, I say, like, I'm the co-founder of Persona, and I want to reach out to these teams, and I want to use these kind of information to really help sound like me, but at the same time give the prospect the benefits. I think it's about how you craft the message, but keeping in mind that it sounds like yourself, so that you sound more authentic.
All right. If I feel like I should start taking sides to keep the tension going, because drama is what makes it interesting. But I basically agree with everyone, meaning that it does have to have a personality, but also it could not exactly be your specific personality, so to say. So it has to kind of shine through, but tailor to that specific audience. Like if we're reaching out to serious people, C-level executives at enterprise companies, that probably not going to appreciate too many jokes or too much cheerfulness. Like one of the jokey way that we recommend playing around with our sales engagement system with our prompts is, try to type something like, hey, rewrite this email, but in the style of, I don't know, Dr. Seuss, for instance. And just to kind of illustrate that you can do that, and it doesn't have to be Dr. Seuss. It could be, make it more formal, make it more informal, but personality there, I think, is I would say personality is what everybody agrees on. Now, what that personality has to be is a different story, and I think it just depends on who the audience is and what drives them, I think. Moving on, I think a good kind of segue would be to talk about how to structure those prompts. Do you guys have any thoughts on how to approach generating those prompts properly? Do we just make it a generalized prompt for the whole email? Do we approach different parts of it, or any thoughts whatsoever in regards to like
what's your definition of the word prompt? Is that the call to action?
No. We're talking about AI. So prompting something like ChatGPT to help us.
How to ask the tool.
Yes,
to do it.
because yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, there's one thing I saw a question in the chat. Bard. I've just started playing with Bard from Google. Mm-hmm. Just the anecdote that I've learned is that it seems like ChatGPT is sort of doing a little bit more of a Google search, and some of their information may be dated from what I've been told, whereas Google feels like it's a little bit more live and has more referenceable recent content because everybody searches in Google, more than anything. So that's a theory. I don't know if that's true, but it's Bard, and it's actually, going back to the example I used earlier, I asked both ChatGPT and Bard to help me write that grant proposal. ChatGPT couldn't do it. Bard gave me great advice, right? I've asked ChatGPT to rank the top sales trainers. Mark and I are actually on that list. Bard, sorry, Mark, we're not on that list. I don't know why. So, so take it all.
Current. I'm just not relevant then, right?
Right. Yeah. Me either. So I think the prompts, the more specific you get, and sometimes you have to ask the tool 3 times. It's like, hey, write this. And you get the answer, and you're like, oh, I don't like that. Oh, I really should have asked it this. And I think that's a piece that you have to do. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to get out of it, right? I do think, I've written things like, write me a LinkedIn post that'll get 100,000 views on the topic of sales training. Guess what? It wrote it. It didn't get 100,000 views. So you kind of have to play with it a little bit and help so it can be done for a couple things. One, it can do mass research at scale. What are the common pains of a VP of sales in 2023 as they look at prospecting? Okay, you could get something out of that. You could ask, what are the common pains of an IT or a procurement person or whatever, so you can get that. Then it's another question to then say, okay, now turn this into an outbound message, right? I think you can also craft it based on your value proposition. Write me a prospecting email for someone who's a director of IT based on this pain we solve. I think the more specific you can get, the more specific you're going to get back. If you ask vague, you're going to get vague. And I'll shut up now.
I love that approach, and I echo it. In fact, what you said about chat being more dated and Bard being current, yeah, I have found the same thing. Here's what I love doing. I'm going to try different prompt words, and I may try it 2 or 3 times, and I'm going to try it in chat. I'm going to try it in Bard, and it comes back with different things. Then I'm going to be able to look at that and say, okay, now what are the pieces I want to pull together? What are the pieces that I think make the most relevance? And again, something else that you raised the point. It's amazing how I have asked chat the exact same question 20 minutes apart, and I get different answers. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can say, who are the top, again, just because, my ego requires it, who are the top sales trainers is different than who are the top 10 sales trainers and who are the top 10 sales trainers in the United States and who are the top 10 SaaS sales trainers in the United States, right? So how you ask matters. This is why I was saying this operational piece is going to need to come in, because it's fun to geek out on this stuff. And if you're not careful, it's a rabbit hole and you will stay in that hole for a long, long, long time. And so we need some support on that end of it. By the way, if you've never gotten it to go write your own biography or autobiography, that's the first thing I tell people to do. Go see what the internet says about you.
Mine would be very short. So just.
Yeah, and I think just to add one thing on that, I think it's super important to have the context. So the more context you give it, whether you do your research first on ChatGPT, and then you put the output into the next prompt. So you kind of chain the prompts. I think that's been very helpful. So first you ask it, what does my ICP like? Like, what are their interests? What are some of their pain points? and then you use that information in their pain points in your next prompt by saying these are the pain points of my ICP, how to best craft a message. And one thing that I've found useful is you can literally tell it, follow the rules, and you put in all the rules there. So I tell it like, keep the message under 100 words, follow the best practices. Those are all ways to make it better. One more thing that's worked for me is you give it an example of a highly converting email. So you tell it, this is an example of a highly converting email, and follow similar patterns to write my next one. And it learns the style, and it also learns what has worked. And there are tools out there that actually have the feedback loop as well. So they send it using AI, but they also track how well the email does. And the emails that do well, they get sent back into the loop and trained on them.
A follow-up question to you, Rush, and I'm curious what your kind of risk tolerance is based on this. When you're feeding the outcome of an AI request and basically make it into another request, where's your limit? Meaning, like, do we just make a couple of those steps? Because we've all heard those horror stories of how ChatGPT can go crazy. Like I recently, a couple of days ago, I heard a story about a researcher just putting in a request without even like recycling those requests and the responses. Just put in a request like the result of which was ChatGPT accused some professor of crimes that professor never committed. And it was a known name, like people know that professor, and it got into the news, like for no reason at all, other than, for some reason, ChatGPT thought that. So, and with that in mind, by feeding, let's say, ChatGPT with some information on our prospect, aren't we running into the risk of the outcomes not being most accurate?
Yeah, I think that's the main concern for AI right now, is that we have seen it hallucinate, which it gives out information that is not true or information that's not valid to your context. There are ways to fix this with fine-tuning. So fine-tuning is you train the AI on a subset of information that is of high quality, and it's trained on top of ChatGPT. So that lowers the chances of it, saying information out of context. And fine-tuning has been really helpful for us to, make sure it's not spitting out things that don't make sense or things that don't do well. So it also helps capture the tone, but at the same time, maintain a higher level of performance. So that's one of the AI techniques to, prevent that from happening. But yeah, it is a known issue that, with ChatGPT, it sends out things that don't make sense or things that are not true. So as AI gets better, I think we'll see less of that. And especially with fine tuning, that's one way to, fix that for now.
Right. And generally, this has been, even here internally, this has been an ongoing discussion at Reply. With our solution, some of the AI elements are still kind of human touched, meaning there's a proofreader who just makes sure that there's nothing crazy that's going on. But that's actually a good segue to my next question. It's more of a general question on your thoughts on full automation via AI versus semi-automation. Do we rely on AI to do the work for us, and how? Actually, that's a lot of questions in one. So, automation versus semi-automation. Are we there yet? Are we ready to rely on AI to run the conversation, let's say up to the point of booking a meeting, or are we ever going to be at that point? What are your opinions on this?
We're going to get there. We're going to get there pretty soon. I would not trust it yet. Time is still our most valuable asset, and it's our customers' most valuable asset. So I'm not going to trust it right now to fully book meetings. But you know what? It'll get there.
Yeah. I'm going to age myself back to the 90s. I remember in the 90s when the holiday season came around and the news was all about $100 million is going to be spent online for holiday gifts. And that was like a big deal. And then it got to $1 billion, right? And so I agree with Mark, there will be early adopters of this who will do it. And I think those will be the most successful. The challenge I also see, and it goes along back to that, to the comment about the professor and the fine tuning piece, is that it's also going to become the new blame and excuse factory. Hey, SDR, we got you this tool that incorporates Chat GPT. Why aren't you hitting your goals? Right. And so fired. Right. So that's going to be another challenge internally in sales, because we're always looking for an excuse for the losses that doesn't accept accountability, enough of the human accountability. So that's a big piece. I think we are going to get there where it's mostly automated. I think the role is going to change. I think the role of a sales rep is going to be, there's going to be a different type of sales engineer, right? There's an SDR engineer, for lack of a better phrase, right? Where they're doing this. And again, with Mark and the comments of like, it still needs a little bit of a human touch to it, right? So that's my answer to it. So.
Yeah, I think right now we still need the QA. We're not there yet. So it's still better to, just check if things make sense, things are the right way, because you also don't want to waste your customers' time, and you want to make sure you're giving them the right messaging. So yeah, we still tell our clients that, go and QA it, just check if everything is okay. Because I don't think the AI is yet there. It's still, sometimes gives out wrong information or doesn't sound like you want it to. So I think becoming more of a QI, kind of just checking if things are okay. But what it does do is help you become a lot more productive. I think that's where AI is right now, just helping sales teams go faster, hit their goals faster with the help of AI. Not using AI just to send without looking at it, but helping them become more productive.
I got a question for both of you. I'm going to take over for a second. So that's what I do. One of the things I've been thinking about too is that we can use the AI in other parts of the sales funnel, right? Hey, help me write something to talk to procurement, and here's their personality. Help me understand how to negotiate. Help me write a training program to teach my rep how to use open-ended questions, right? And so I think there's this whole other piece, and again, it's so easy right now, and it's so great that we can use it at the top of the funnel. I think there's this middle of the funnel stuff too. I also think too that this kind of goes back to what Mark was saying earlier about the personality, is it's going to help us with our own EQ, right? If I use Chat GPT or Bard or whatever, or any of the other tools that has this implemented, and I'm selling to the same persona over and over again, eventually I'm not going to have to ask Chat GPT how to write it or how to talk to them. So all of a sudden I've got this other form of training that is particularly for the reps who like to learn on their own, So anyway, so I'm curious, how do y'all see that? Do y'all see the same thing, or?
Yes, and yes. I see this. One of the things that I use it for is I might be potentially working with a new client. They're in kind of a business that I don't quite understand. I go out and I ask Chat GPT, what are the challenges they're facing? Help me understand this, help me understand that. And it comes back with a much faster, much clearer, so to speak, knowledge document that I can learn from. Tell me. So I look at it as for account execs, account managers, and so forth. This is going to be a huge asset for you to be able to get up to speed faster. What does it do? It allows you to speak to that potential customer in a much more intelligent manner, because you're now coming across as a peer versus this vendor on the outside.
Okay. Sorry guys, I was just checking out some questions in the chats. I want to maybe shift gears and maybe talk about some of the not so fun stuff, which is like, what are the downsides? What are the potential pitfalls? And maybe in your experience that you have seen, of not using AI or ChatGPT or ChatGPT powered solutions properly, like what are the risks here?
I think one thing is, sorry, I think one thing is that it could be used in the wrong way, like, spam and things like that, because now you're able to generate so much content at scale. We might see much more spam going through, like people using ChatGPT to write emails for, just without researching the prospect, without doing any research, just telling it to fire 100,000 emails. AI can do that. So it's important for us to prevent that from happening. So I think we'll see more safeguards come up. Maybe Gmail, other email tools would also, try to figure out what is spam, what is not spam. There's a lot of research being done on how to know if content is AI generated or not. And I think what it'll come up to is whether content is of high quality or not. Whether it has been used by AI, that's fine, but whether it is of good quality to the recipient. And I've heard something that they're tracking is that making sure you're not sending the same message over time. Like if you're sending the same prompt, maybe that's the way they can track that this is spam. That's the future of spam detection, maybe. So I think we'll see a lot of conversations about that.
Yeah. Just, I go back to a comment I made at the beginning. Just because you can play on the freeway, I can go run across a freeway, doesn't mean you should. You're probably going to get killed. And that's what I fear about AI, because I can send out 10,000 emails, and to your point, Rush, it's just going to be more spam. This is where I think the future is tailorization. We've got to get very, very tailored. That's where AI is going to help us, because otherwise we're just being stupid.
Yeah, I think there's also, again, it's the pray and spray is the biggest challenge, right? I think that's one of them. And I think it's going to get worse right now because of the economic climate. Everybody's trying to grow as fast as they can. And the part that people aren't looking at is, well, what's my TAM, right? So, for example, if you're trying to sell to university marketing departments, guess what? You got about 4,000 in the United States. That's it. Sure, you can chat GPT that. And then what are you going to do for the next 364 days? Right? Like, so there has to be this somewhat rationalization approach to this to understand it in balance with, particularly for most of us in the startup, grow at all costs kind of piece, I think is really important. I think the other piece is that it's very short-sighted right now, as most new technologies are. Oh my God, we can do this, and oh my God, we can do that. But going back to that part about the EQ that we were just talking about, and teaching people and training people, that still takes time, right? I can give, Chat GPT, give me the best script, but I still need to go role play it 20 times out loud to see how it sounds. I need to say, oh, wait a minute, that is really hard for me. I need to make it a little bit more like Richard, or Mark needs to make it like Mark, or Rush like Rush, and then what does that do to the script? Does it make it better or worse? So there's this other element that I think, there's some great things that are happening short term, and then we also need to look at it from this long-term perspective. And particularly on the email side, I still, I have a newsletter go out, and I still have it A/B test 3 subject lines to see which gets the best open rates on the first 300, and then that's what it does. I mean, that's a little bit of what I'm doing, but I haven't even thought about it till now. Maybe I'll go and chat GPT my 3 best subject lines, and then see which one actually works. And then 20 minutes later, I'll get 3 different ones according to Mark.
I'll quickly chime in here to add on that, because we started talking about the volume, right? Just because you can generate so much content, you can automate sending all of that, right? There's really little effort that needs to be put in there, but is it really worth it or not? And one of the ideas that we actually had at Reply when it comes to AI replying to the messaging is that what about like building a solution that's going to handle all of your incoming emails, and how easy and I think we're already kind of working on that. And there was a lot of demand for that, by the way. Once we announced that, there were a lot of questions. Oh, well, does the tool not only handle replies to my cold emails, but how about the rest of my emails? Because people don't want to deal with all of that generic cold email stuff that's already there, and there's going to be even more with AI. So that's another point why it's so important to use ChatGPT and in a smart way, right? To generate that copy that's really unique sounding, to really thoroughly think about that framework that you're going to use for your cold emails, and exactly put maybe be your personality in there, or maybe put in the personality of the buyer that you're targeting, right? I think it's good to do both. So yeah, still a lot of training left to do for us, and I think that's exactly what we're doing at this event today. And I believe we are right on time. I'm just wondering if anybody has any maybe final words before we let you go.
I want to probably say a couple of words for the speakers, just to plug their respective businesses. So once again, please go and check the Sales Hunter. Please go and check the Harris Consulting Group, and also Rush's company, Persona AI. These are, as you have heard today, these are the experts in AI, but also in sales in general. So thanks to, again, everyone joining today. Thanks for sharing your perspectives. We appreciate it very much. And we'll let you go now and move on to our next speaker.
Great. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer some of these other questions in the chat separately that we didn't get to.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.